Week 22. Day 148, on Fear. Action Cures Fear, David Schwartz. Many put off acting on their goals because they're afraid. Instead of facing the challenge head-on, they choose a more comfortable option, withdrawing until they gain the courage to take action. The sad truth is that courage never appears out of the blue, magically manifesting itself if you only wait long enough. Brave people aren't immune to fear, they also feel it, but decide to act in spite of it. And in this very act of refusal, fear goes away and they get to do incredible things. As a rock climber, fear is my regular companion. Fear makes you question whether you can climb a particular route, or when climbing, makes you back out from a challenge. While fear does serve an important purpose in situations like climbing, when there sometimes is a risk of injuring or killing yourself, it's often a wrong counselor. The key is to ask yourself one fundamental question: is there a statistically significant chance of harming myself? In climbing, a potential fall is often safe, so any fear that makes you question your abilities is unfounded. If a fall is safe, you might as well try and fall, nothing bad will happen. However, sometimes the decision to continue climbing needs to be carefully calculated, especially when a potential fall can be dangerous. Then fear can actually save your life. However, in most everyday applications, fear is unfounded. There's almost no risk involved in chatting up that attractive stranger, launching a side business on a shoestring, applying for a new job, starting a diet, or implementing any other change of a similar nature. This means that unless you're engaging in any higher risk activity, you need to go past your fear. I know, it's not pleasant, it's paralyzing, it causes so much pressure that all you want to do is get away from it. However, if you want to strengthen your self-discipline and build mental toughness, there's no better exercise than to repeatedly face your fears. By regularly facing my fear of heights, I was able to largely cure myself of it. If I were continuously avoiding it, hoping that one day the fear would disappear by itself, I'd never have become a rock climber. Day 149, on the weak point in your armor. The individual can attain self-control in great things only through self-control in little things. He must study himself to discover what is the weak point in his armor, what is the element within him that ever keeps him from his fullest success. This is the characteristic upon which he should begin his exercise in self-control. Is it selfishness, vanity, cowardice, morbidness, temper, laziness, worry, mind-wandering, lack of purpose? Whatever form human weakness assumes in the masquerade of life he must discover. William George Jordan. Inspect your armor and find its weakest point, the common thread that leads you into most temptations or poses the biggest barrier to achieving your goals. For example, in my case, one of my weakest points is patience. If I do something, I want to go all out and get results as quickly as possible. While it often serves as a strength, it's also a common reason why I fail to achieve some of my goals. I follow rigid routines and am sometimes so strict with myself that eventually I can no longer continue because I burn myself out. What follows is a full-blown cheat day, after following too strict of a diet, an inability to write, after writing too much for too long, or an injury, after exercising too hard. My inability to be patient with the process was also one of the reasons why I failed to build a profitable business for several years. Instead of accepting the fact that all businesses need the owner's undivided focus for a long period of time, I constantly launched one business after another, thinking each time that the new business model would surely provide a breakthrough. Having discovered my weak point, when setting new goals I now focus on sustainability. I try to accept the fact that it's better to take the longer path with fewer pitfalls than choose the quick route with a high chance of failure or delude myself by thinking that switching my strategy, for no reason, will lead to success. What are your own weak points? How do they affect your goals and what can you do to fix those weaknesses, to prevent them from continuing to affect your life in a negative way? Day 150. On indulgences charging you interest. It's this great paradox that only a few people understand, but ultra-performers have realized that procrastination and indulgence are like these creditors that charge us interest. They make us feel good now, it's easy in the short term, but it's what creates the more difficult life. Rory Vaden. Metaphors can serve as useful tools to better understand and embrace concepts that otherwise don't produce an emotional effect. If I tell you that putting things off and indulging yourself affect you negatively in the long term, perhaps you'll agree with me and stay away from them. Or perhaps you'll ignore me, because the statement in itself isn't emotionally charged and memorable. Instead, what if you embrace the metaphor that procrastination and indulgence are like your creditors? They extend you some credit today, but don't fool yourself, they will be back, asking you to give the money back along with interest. The more you overeat today, the more time you'll have to spend in the future in a caloric deficit. A cake today is so tasty and nice to have, but don't let it fool you, under the friendly face hides a ruthless banker. The more time you spend playing video games, the harder it will be in the future to give up the habit and become more productive. Indulging yourself feels good today, but there will be a price to pay for it. What are the interest rates your indulgences charge you? The next time you're about to succumb to a temptation, ask yourself if you want to place yourself in debt, in exchange for a fleeting moment of pleasure. Day 151, on changing your character. If you make disciplined, caring choices, you are slowly engraving certain tendencies into your mind. You are making it more likely that you will desire the right things and execute the right actions. If you make selfish, cruel, or disorganized choices, then you are slowly turning this core thing inside yourself into something that is degraded, inconstant, or fragmented. David Brooks. If you currently don't see yourself as a self-disciplined person and your desires and actions prioritize instant gratification over sacrifices that lead to bigger rewards in the future, you may feel as if there's no way you'll ever change. After all, it's been your way of doing things for a long time, and it's probably already part of your nature now. Fortunately, while your character takes time to change, it is possible to change it, with thousands of little decisions and by embracing certain thoughts over others. For example, today you may not have a tendency to desire healthy food, but rest assured that if you eat it for long enough, you will develop a desire for it. I'm speaking from my own experience. Initially I couldn't stand the taste of many vegetables, such as broccoli, Brussels sprouts, or cauliflower. As for the other vegetables, I was neutral about most of them, which meant that, given a choice between eating vegetables and something else, I'd go for something else. Today, I often crave vegetables. I no longer need to force myself to eat them. A tendency to consume them regularly is now a part of my character. This little example is only one change that was engraved in my mind after making disciplined choices over and over again. No matter which area of your life you are talking about, what now feels like a difficult act of deprivation or a sacrifice will eventually turn into something you consider essential in your life. Day 152, on the future value of money. If an item was listed at $50, consider the potential value of that same $50 after it has been invested for 20 years. Ask, is this item worth $250? If it's worth $250 to you today, then it's worth buying. Darren Hardy. Money has present and future value. At the very moment, $50 is $50. However, when invested over a long period of time, with a rate or return that exceeds inflation, it can grow several times or more. If you're struggling to maintain self-discipline with your finances, use Darren Hardy's mind trick to reduce the number of unnecessary purchases and assume that each purchase costs you 5 times more over the long term. Alternatively, think of any purchase as hours of your work. $50 is just a number that has little, if any, emotional charge. How about 2 or 3 hours of your life? Would you buy this new trinket with 2 or 3 hours of your time, instead of paying with a $50 bill? What if it's actually the same thing as losing 15 hours of your life over the long run? Is it still worth it? Day 153, on spontaneity. As he walked across the farmyard toward the hen house, he noticed the pump was leaking. So he stopped to fix it. It needed a new washer, so he set off to the barn to get one. But on the way he saw that the hayloft needed straightening, so he went to fetch the pitchfork. Hanging next to the pitchfork was a broom with a broken handle. I must make a note to myself to buy a broom handle the next time I get to town, he thought. By now it is clear that the farmer is not going to get his eggs gathered, nor is he likely to accomplish anything else he sets out to do. He is utterly, gloriously spontaneous, but he is hardly free. He is, if anything, a prisoner to his unbridled spontaneity. The fact of the matter is that discipline is the only way to freedom. It is the necessary context for spontaneity. John Guest. When you think of spontaneity, you might think of it as something positive and fun. Going on an unplanned road trip. Dancing in the rain. Saying yes to random invitations. Spontaneity can be positive, as long as you don't mistake it with impulsiveness. Whenever you justify your uninhibited behaviors with spontaneity, ask yourself if that's what it really is or whether your unplanned actions are in reality caused by a lack of self-control. Another danger you need to be aware of is when people use spontaneity to lure you and to betray your resolutions. For example, imagine you're on a diet. When you're out having fun with your friends, at midnight suddenly one of them announces that you're all going to go get some pizza. If you back out, you may be called uptight or a killjoy. At that moment, it's important to realize that your friend's accusations are unfounded because they mistake disinhibition with spontaneity. You can still be spontaneous without ruining your goals. For example, instead of eating a pizza, you can eat something less caloric, like a salad. Eat just 1 or 2 small slices, or if you decide to eat the entire pizza, schedule a strenuous workout the next day, or reduce your caloric intake for a day, to burn off the excess calories. If you're wondering if self-discipline is going to make you a boring person, realize that you can make an exception from time to time, just don't do it when you're being pressured into doing it. Day 154, on the value of doing things yourself. Know the pleasure of workmanship, the joy that comes from things made well by your own hands, the happiness which comes from closer touch with the fundamental things of life and the consciousness of being of value to the world. Ernest Thompson Seton. In today's world, nobody is self-sufficient. Everybody is doing what they do best and they rely on others to satisfy their other needs and desires. Division of labor has led to prosperity, but it has also made us lazy. Whatever you want, you can buy it and get it almost instantly delivered to your door. Have a backyard? Hire a gardener to tend to it. Don't want it clean? Hire a maid. Don't have the patience to learn how to fix your sink? Call a handyman. There's nothing inherently wrong about it, and in fact, more often than not it's a smart approach. Why waste time doing something you're not good at if there are people who would be happy to take care of the problem for you? However, if you develop a habit that whenever you're facing a problem, you need to call somebody else to fix it, what will happen to your problem-solving skills? How likely will you be to keep going when problems emerge in your line of work and it will be you who will need to deal with them? Lastly, by avoiding doing things yourself, how many opportunities are you missing out on to learn something new or face a difficult situation head-on and solve it yourself? At the moment I'm writing this, I'm in the process of remodeling my apartment. I debated on hiring an interior designer to handle the entire process, design the apartment, buy materials, hire contractors, and manage it all. However, even though I could afford it, in the end I decided against it, realizing that in addition to financial savings, it was a good opportunity to learn something new. Remodeling can be a frustrating and difficult undertaking, so it can also serve as a valuable exercise in self-control. In the end, doing it myself will not only save me money, but also lead to personal growth, and that's the primary reward of doing things yourself.